she arrived just after dusk when the sky looked bruised and the air felt paused. The house stood alone, half swallowed by fog. No neighbors, no sounds. Just a key hanging from the knob and a note taped to the door. Stay as long as you need. Inside, the silence was thick, not empty, expectant. The furniture was sparse. A mirror faced the wall. A lamp flickered without a bulb. She didn't remember booking this place. She didn't remember needing it. But something in her chest had gone quiet the moment she stepped inside. That night, she dreamed of a hallway with no doors, just frames. Empty frames, and something behind her walking slow. She woke to silence. Not morning silence, absence, the kind that makes your ears ring. In the kitchen, a teacup sat on the counter, hers. From a life she'd left behind, she didn't touch it. The mirror had turned around. It faced her now. She didn't look. He appeared on the third night, not with sound, just presence. Sitting on the couch, hands on his knees, eyes on her, she knew him. Not from the face, it was wrong. But the way her chest tightened, the way the air bent around him. Her ex, the one who left without leaving. She whispered his name. The lamp flickered. The music box now on the windowsill played static. He didn't speak, just watched. She sat across from him. The silence stretched. She whispered, "Why are you here?" He opened his mouth. No sound, just fog. She reached for his hand. It was warm, familiar, wrong. He whispered, "You called me." She pulled away. The mirror cracked. The next morning, the house had changed. His jacket hung in the closet. His cologne lingered in the bathroom. His voice echoed in the pipes. She whispered, "I didn't mean to." The house replied, "You did." She walked to the hallway. A door appeared. Inside, her old apartment, the night he died. He was cooking, laughing, alive. She watched from the doorway. He didn't see her. She whispered, "I'm not ready." He turned, smiled. "You were always ready." She sat on the bed. The mirror was gone. In its place, another her, smiling, not kindly, not cruelly, just knowingly. She whispered, "You're not me." The double tilted her head. "I'm what's left." She stood. So did the double. She reached out. So did the double. Their hands touched, warm, familiar, wrong. She whispered, "I buried you." The double whispered, "You watered me." The walls pulsed. The music box played her heartbeat. She woke up in the middle of the night to the smell of rain and wet concrete. The room was dark, but she could make out the shapes of things, the curve of the couch, the legs of the table. Everything seemed heavy, like it had been dragged through mud. She got out of bed and walked to the window. The glass was fogged up. She pressed her palm against it, willing the image to clear. When it did, she gasped. The yard was flooded, filled with weeds and tangled vines. The house hadn't been alone after all. Something had grown around it, creeping up the porch steps, spilling over the windows, reaching for the roof. Tendrils snaked through the overgrown grass, tugging at the gravel path. At the end of it, something writhed beneath the weight of the fog. She wanted to run, but her feet were rooted to the spot. She wanted to scream, but her throat was lined with ash. Then the tendrils surged forward. They brushed against her leg, coiling around her ankle. She cried out and kicked, but they held fast. More sprouted from the ground, pulling her toward the darkness. She woke up shivering. Beside her, the bed was soaked with sweat. The music box sat open on the nightstand, its melody a warped lullaby. As the sun rose, the house creaked and groaned. She felt its pain in her bones, its fear in her blood, then a knock at the door. She whirled around. Who would be out here, in this weather? What time is it? She thought, not yet. Not so fast. She walked to the window and peered out. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. She pressed her forehead against the glass, willing it to clear. When it did, she stumbled back. The entire front of the house had caved in. Vines filled into the yard, consuming everything in sight. The front door hung precariously from one hinge. Beneath it, a figure pounded his fist against the wood. The knocking stopped. The figure straightened, wiped his brow, and knocked again. She stared at the rain-streaked glass, trying to remember how she'd gotten here. How long had she been here? How many nights? Days? Years? What was she running from? Why had she come here? What was he doing here? Who was he? Who was she? Questions echoed in the vast emptiness, bouncing off the walls like hail. She wanted to answer them, but the words wouldn't come. Her throat was stuck with dread. He knocked again. Louder this time, desperate. She wanted to call out to him, but her voice refused to leave her body. She ran to the door. Her hand trembled as she reached for the knob. She opened the door to find nothing but rain. She woke to the sound of birds. Sunlight streamed through the window, painting stripes on the floor. The music box lay silent on the nightstand. She sat up, her head pounding. She couldn't remember her own name, let alone where she was or how she'd gotten there. Panic clawed at her throat. She had to get out, had to get away. She threw open the front door and stepped onto the porch. The world tilted on its axis. Her legs buckled beneath her. She clung to the railing, nausea rising in her throat. The yard was gone, replaced by a bustling street lined with shops and cafes. A woman hurried past, her dog yapping at her heels. A group of kids rode their bikes down the sidewalk, their laughter echoing in the air. She wanted to join them, to ask where she was, what had happened, what year it was, what day it was, what her name was. But her lips were sealed with fear. All she could do was watch as the world turned back into color. She walked to the corner and turned right. The street curved and narrowed. Soon she was the only person on it. The houses grew closer together, their walls looming like tombstones. On the other side of the road, she saw a familiar shape, a weathered porch swing, a chipped paint job, overgrown weeds. A house, her house. She rushed across the street, her heart pounding in her chest. Maybe someone was home. Maybe someone remembered. Maybe she'd find an answer. She reached the front steps and paused. She didn't know if she wanted to go in. Didn't know if she'd come back out, but something compelled her forward. She climbed the steps, reached out and knocked. 3 times. When the door opened, she saw him standing there, a mirror image of the man from her dream. The one she'd buried, the one she'd loved, the one she'd lost. He looked at her, his eyes wide with surprise, and in that moment, she knew. This wasn't the first time she'd woken up in his house. This wasn't the first time she'd found him on the porch. This wasn't the first time he'd called her name. This wasn't the first time she'd seen the tendrils growing beneath the fog. This wasn't the first time she'd buried him. This wasn't the first time she'd watered him. This wasn't the first time she'd dreamed of the hallway. This wasn't the first time she'd seen the door. This wasn't the first time she'd come back. This wasn't the first time he'd smiled.